How much true crime is on Kevin Costner's CV? I keep a running list of possible BETCRP subjects, and until the other day, Kevin Costner wasn't even on it. The actor who plays his wife in JFK, Sissy Spacek, was. Spacek's co-star in Badlands who has played JFK, Martin Sheen, was. Costner is putting himself on a bunch of shit lists industry-wide the last few years. But I didn't have Ulrich Kinsella in the running for a BTCRP. But first I thought that I should run Spacek's numbers, to stick with a JFK case theme this week. And then I thought that Spacek and Costner had similar percentage profiles at first glance, both in JFK, both in at least one other major case genre flick that's probably making the opening graph in the obit. Then I thought, what the hell, let's see how much true crime Costner's got going. Lady, what are you even talking about? The best evidence true crime resume percentage is designed, if you can call it that. It's dorm room bong hits coded, to measure how much of an actor's, or director's, CV is true crime. The BETCRP point structure looks like this. 1 point for each true crime property, regardless of size/nature of role. 2 points for playing a name figure, in case 1 point if the role received awards attention, i.e., Emmy, Globes, or Oscar nods. 1 point if the property is considered a whole love famoral points divided by number of IMDb credits. The bet crap. Cinchy. Well, except when I get into extended debates with myself about what counts, what Hall of Fame even means. Do we all see blue the same way, Marn? Blah 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 fish cakes. But that's honestly the fun of it. That, and seeing how wide my predictions sail. Costner has 66 IMDb acting credits and 4 projects listed for the near future, for a nice round 70. I predict Costner's BTCRP comes in at 28%. Francis Farmer, 1982. Perhaps an avant-garde connection to draw right up top, but you could argue that Farmer is remembered today because, well, yes, because Frances Bean Cobain is named for her asterisk, but also because she was at the center of the previous century's conversations about the criminalization of mental illness, sexual assault in prisons, high-profile conservatorship that never seemed to find men vulnerable, and other criminal justice topics. Asterisk, I was today years old when I learned that's probably not true. More on Farmer, her untapped potential, and the Britney parallels in this deep dive by my esteemed colleague Sheila O'Malley. And back to Costner, who is variously credited here as Luther or Man in Alley, but it's good enough for 1 point. The Untouchables, 1987. The other guaranteed point-getter for Costner, who had done Silverado but was still slogging through straight-to VHS cop thrillers and overwritten copies of Tender Mercies until getting cast as Elliot Ness here. Or is it? He gets 3 automatically, of course, but Sean Connery got most of the awards' attention, along with David Mamet and Ennio Morricone. Costner wasn't nominated. And The Untouchables is one of those late 80s prestige wife flicks that everyone spoke highly of back then, that inevitably was on some premium channel on weekend nights, that you got used to thinking about as one of the greats, and then it just kind of ebbed out of the culture. I could name a handful of late 80s movies like that. Somebody won some Oscar for it, and it's still a perfectly cromulent 110 minutes, but it didn't stick for whatever reason. So I don't think TU gets the Hall of Fame point either, because I outlined this very BTCRP to my husband, and when I said the title The Untouchables, he still said, "Oh, Robert Stack?" It's neat that Oscar Fraley got a screenwriting credit here, but that doesn't help Kev any. 3. True crime coverage in your inbox. Dances with Wolves, 1990. Closer calls than you'd think here. The broad intent of the film is not as a crime story, clearly, but according to a piece on Collider last year, John Dunbar's did exist. You could consider aspects of the story both true and crime, depending on how you want to classify what looks a lot from here like a genocide. And Mary McDonnell stands with a fist hews rather closely to Cynthia Parker, whose story is on the shelves at Exhibit B. But this isn't McDonnell's BETCRP, and overall I think we have to receive the movie as history with a crime or crimes in it, not as a filmed case file. Can't really justify going higher than 1. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991. Inflicting that Bryan Adams song on a generation of wedding guests notwithstanding, the film, a Fandango reunion between Kevin Costner and director Reynolds, which if you've seen Fandango is wild to think about, has an argument for points. Per the BBC, multiple Robin Hoods existed centuries ago. Here again, the movie positions itself as an interpretation of a legend, not of a judicial proceeding, and it is legendarily dull and self-serious, but I still think it qualifies for 3. JFK, 1991. The majorest case we've got here in the States, and while it's possible the film made Jim Garrison into a name figure for civilians ex post facto, Costner's getting the points regardless. Absolutely a Hall of Famer, and to my surprise Costner notched a Globe nom. 5. Wyatt Earp, 1994. As I said when this came up for Gene Hackman, just because there's a bunch of guns going off in a true story doesn't necessarily mean it's a genre property. I've read more about Los Earp between the Hackman BETCRP and now, and I think the story's status as true crime is clearer cut. 3. 13 Days, 2000. I just processed Robert F. Kennedy Sr.'s book of the same name into inventory the other day. My rubric for considering that book as true crime is different. The author was also a murder victim later, the author's brother, etc., and so on, and I don't think 13 Days is true crime. I do think Costner's character, Kenny O'Donnell, counts as a name figure though, as a member of JFK's inner advisory circle. John Kennedy's murder sent O'Donnell into an alcoholic spiral that killed him aged 53. My logic probably isn't, but if we go with it, 2. Hatfields and McCoys, 2012. I'd forgotten how long ago this miniseries debuted. The titular families existed, hated each other, and traded violent crimes/rustled livestock for decades. And Costner plays Hatfield patriarch, Devil Aunts. Got an Emmy and a Globe for doing it, too. Can't really call it a HOF genre property, but that's a solid 4. Billy the Kid, New Evidence, 2015. A TV doc about an antique shop discovery that reopens the book on William Bonney? I guess. The titular kid is played by a guy named, no shit, Jor-El Vosborg. What a time to be alive. Anyway, Costner does the VO here. 1. Molly's Game, 2017. Completely forgot Costner played Molly Bloom's father in this. Also completely forgot Aaron Sorkin scripted it. Also completely forgot I totally watched it. Not a big point pickup for K. Cost here, but 1. The Highwayman, 2019. One of those before time projects that got lost in my to-do list. Costner plays Frank Hamer, a wicked smart Texas Ranger who led the manhunt for Bonnie and Clyde. No awards really, and I doubt most people recall it exists, but it's still good for 3. That's 27 points total, which puts Kevin Costner's BETCRP at 38.5%. It's not that squishy a number, I wouldn't say. You could kick out 13 Days or shave off a couple Robin Hood points and still be in the mid-30s. Fact is, he clears nearly 10 of those points inarguably on projects I straight forgot existed. Got an actor or director you'd like us to run the BETCRP process on? Leave a comment or email us.